Have you ever noticed how the people who talk the least seem to command the most respect? How the ones who are perpetually unavailable somehow become the most desired? There's something deeply unsettling about this observation, something that cuts against everything you've been taught about relationships, about being a good person, about showing up for others. You've been conditioned to believe that availability equals kindness, that constant presence proves your worth. But what if I told you that your availability has become the very cage that imprisons you? Carl Jung understood something that most people spend their entire lives never grasping. He called it the shadow, but what he was really describing was the parts of yourself you've sacrificed to maintain the approval of others. Every time you answer that call when you don't want to, every time you say yes when your whole body screams no, every time you explain yourself to people who have no right to an explanation, you're feeding a pattern that will devour you from the inside out. The truth is brutal. You are not respected because you are available. You are used because you are available. Let that sit for a moment. Let it sting, because until you feel the full weight of this reality, nothing will change. You'll keep wondering why people take you for granted. You'll keep asking yourself why your generosity is met with entitlement rather than gratitude. You'll keep bleeding yourself dry for people who wouldn't cross the street to see you whole. Jung spoke about individuation, the process of becoming who you truly are rather than who others need you to be. But here's what nobody tells you about individuation. It requires you to disappoint people. It demands that you shatter the image others have constructed of you, the convenient, comfortable, always accessible version of yourself that exists primarily for their benefit. This isn't cruelty, this is liberation. Think about the last time someone reached out to you. Be honest with yourself now. Was it because they valued you as a complete human being, or was it because they needed something, a favor, emotional labor, validation, entertainment, a solution to their problem? And what did you do? You showed up, didn't you? You rearranged your schedule, interrupted your peace, fragmented your focus, all to maintain this fiction that your worth is measured by your usefulness to others. Now tell me, how has that worked out for you? When you are always available, you become invisible. This is the paradox that destroys good people. You think your constant presence makes you indispensable, but it actually makes you into wallpaper, background noise, a resource to be extracted rather than a person to be cherished. True power is not in reacting to every demand placed upon you. True power is in the sovereign choice of where you place your energy. Jung wrote that until you make the unconscious conscious, it will direct your life and you will call it fate. Your pattern of over-availability isn't kindness, it's an unconscious program running in the background of your psyche. Maybe it started in childhood when love was conditional, when you learned that your value was transactional. Maybe it developed later when you confused self-sacrifice with virtue. Either way, you've been operating from a wound, not from wisdom. Here's what happens when you stop being available. At first, people panic. They'll call you selfish. They'll question what's changed. They'll probe and prod and attempt to guilt you back into your designated role on their stage. This is the test. This is where most people fold, where they apologize for having boundaries, where they shrink back into familiar patterns because the discomfort of disappointing others feels worse than the slow suicide of self-abandonment. But if you hold steady, if you sit in that discomfort without rushing to resolve it, something extraordinary happens. The people who only valued your utility disappear, and the space they leave behind, that's where you rediscover yourself. Silence is not absence, but amplified presence. When you stop filling every void with explanations, when you stop performing emotional labor for people who haven't earned access to your inner world, you create a container for something rare in this noise-saturated existence. You create space for depth, for discernment, for the kind of relationships that nourish rather than drain. Let me be clear about what I'm not saying. This isn't about becoming cold or withdrawn or playing manipulative games with people's emotions. This is about energy economics, about understanding that you are not an infinite resource, that every yes to someone else's agenda is a no to your own becoming. Jung believed that the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are, but you cannot become yourself while you're busy being everyone's everything. The weapon of silence is misunderstood in our culture. We're taught that silence is passive, that it's avoidance or weakness. But strategic silence, conscious unavailability, this is active power. It says, I value my peace more than your perception of me. It says, I am not negotiating my boundaries. It says, my energy is sacred, and you have not demonstrated that you deserve access to it. Watch what happens in your relationships when you implement even the smallest shift. Don't respond immediately to every text. Don't explain your decisions to people who aren't affected by them. Don't attend every argument you're invited to. Just pull back slightly and observe. The ones who respect you will give you space. The ones who used you will escalate their demands. This is the filter you've been missing your entire life. You will lose people, but you will find yourself. And here's what nobody prepared you for. That trade is not even close. The people you lose by having boundaries were never truly with you anyway. They were with the version of you that served their needs. They were in relationship with a function, not a person. Their departure isn't loss, it's clarity. Jung said that loneliness does not come from having no people around you, but from being unable to communicate the things that seem important to you. Every time you make yourself endlessly available to people who don't see you, who don't ask about your depths, who treat you like an on-demand service, you're choosing a crowded loneliness over solitary authenticity. How long will you keep choosing wrong? There's a concept in Jungian psychology called enantiodromia, the principle that everything eventually becomes its opposite. Your excessive availability, born perhaps from a desire to be loved, has become the very thing that prevents genuine love from reaching you. Because love, real love, respects autonomy. It doesn't demand constant access. It doesn't require you to be diminished. It meets you as an equal, not as a servant. When you stop being available, you're not building walls, you're installing doors. And doors have something that open fields don't. They have locks. They require others to knock, to wait, to demonstrate that what they're bringing is worth the disruption to your peace. This isn't arrogance, this is self-respect. Think about the people in your life who command natural respect, who seem to move through the world with an unshakable center. What do they have in common? They're not the ones constantly proving their worth. They're not the ones available at 3 a.m. for people who wouldn't visit them in the hospital. They've made peace with something you're still fighting. They've accepted that being selective is not being selfish. What if I told you that the right people, your true people, won't be deterred by your boundaries? They'll be attracted to them. Because healthy individuals don't want a martyr or a servant or an emotional support animal. They want a whole person, someone who knows their value, someone who has cultivated an inner world rich enough that they're not dependent on external validation. Your unavailability becomes the prerequisite for meaningful connection. Here's the practice, the actual transformation. Start small. Choose one relationship where you've been over-functioning. Don't announce it. Don't make a declaration. Just quietly pull back your energy. Match their investment. If they reach out once a week, you reach out once a week. If they only call when they need something, stop calling when you have something to give. Create symmetry where there's been imbalance. You'll feel guilt. That guilt is not your conscience, it's your conditioning. Sit with it, breathe through it. Remind yourself that teaching people how to treat you is not cruelty, it's communication. Your resentment has been teaching them nothing. Your boundary will teach them everything. Then expand this practice. Notice where you're spending psychic energy on people who aren't spending it on you. Notice where you're more invested in maintaining a relationship than the other person is. These asymmetries are draining your life force, bleeding you of the energy you need for individuation, for creativity, for joy, for the relationships that actually feed you. Cut the energy cords, not with anger, not with drama, just with quiet redirection of your attention. Jung believed that what you resist persists. So stop resisting the truth that you've been giving too much to people who appreciate too little. Stop resisting the reality that your worth is not determined by your availability. Stop resisting the fact that you've been playing small to make others comfortable. Accept it, integrate it, and then make a different choice. The people who are meant for you will still be there when you return to yourself. Actually, that's not quite right. They'll be there for the first time because they'll finally be meeting you instead of meeting the performance of you. When you stop being available, you become magnetic in a way that neediness never could be. There's something compelling about a person who is complete unto themselves, who offers their presence as a gift rather than a guarantee. Scarcity creates value, yes, but this isn't about manipulation. This is about truth. You are scarce. Your time is limited. Your energy is finite. Treating yourself as abundant and endlessly accessible is a lie that benefits everyone except you. The final integration, the place where this all leads, is to a life where your presence is valued because it's not assumed, where your energy goes to people and projects and purposes that genuinely align with who you are becoming, not who you were conditioned to be, where you wake up and your day belongs to you first and others second. This is not selfishness. This is survival. In a world that will take everything you're willing to give and then ask for more, boundaries are not optional. They're the difference between a life you're living and a life that's living you. So here's your choice, and understand that not choosing is still a choice. You can continue as you have been, available, accommodating, endlessly giving, slowly eroding under the weight of everyone else's needs. You'll be liked, maybe. You'll be useful, certainly, but you will not be respected, and you will not be whole. Or you can begin the uncomfortable, necessary work of becoming unavailable to anything that doesn't serve your highest becoming. You'll be misunderstood at first. You'll be called selfish by people who benefited from your self-abandonment. But slowly, inevitably, you'll discover something you may have forgotten. You'll discover that you are enough, that your company is valuable, that your peace is sacred, that your becoming matters more than their comfort. When you stop being available, everything changes. The question is, are you ready for that change? Are you ready to disappoint the versions of people who only loved the diminished version of you? Are you ready to stand in your power even when it's lonely, trusting that the loneliness of integrity is richer than the company of compromise? Jung said it perfectly. The shoe that fits one person pinches another. There is no recipe for living that suits all cases. Stop trying to fit into everyone else's life. Stop reshaping yourself to meet their expectations. Stop being so available that you become invisible. Your life is waiting for you to claim it, but you'll never find it in the constant service of others. See you there.